Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. And lots to do here on this Lundy Gras. LSU baseball has a good weekend in Frisco. We'll talk about all of it. Tiger basketball squad took one on the chin on Saturday. We'll also chat with Reed Darcy about the women's basketball team who lost a game yesterday, but also lost one of their best players for the next week. We'll talk about Flau'jae Johnson's absence with Reed coming up in hour number 2. The NFL Combine is just about in the books, and the Saints going to move on from Tyron Matthew. We've got a lot to do here over the next couple of hours to lock us in here on the Hunt Palmer Show. We'll start this thing the way we start every show. That's our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Start with baseball. I want to be pretty clear about the messaging here before we get into the content, okay? When we talk about baseball here, we talk about things with an elevated bar. You talk about competing for SEC championships. You talk about being a top 8 national seed. You talk about getting to Omaha. You talk about winning national championships. So that's the expectation around here this time of year every year. So I'm going to be a little bit critical of LSU's pitching in this opening segment, but understand that it was a good weekend. They won 3 games. The offense was awesome. There's a ton of talent on the mound, and I'm not pushing the panic button. I felt like as I was writing my Around the Horn piece for LouisianaSports.net that you can read up there right now, it felt like I was framing things kind of overwhelmingly negative as I was typing it, and that really wasn't my intention. It's just kind of the way things spilled out, and I didn't want it to sound that way when I started talking about it on the air. So I'm being upfront here, and I'm going to say, like, we're talking about things through a championship lens here, not like a fairly competitive lens. Like, this is not the way we would talk about things with men's basketball in December. Because those expectations in December with men's basketball is, okay, can you compete in the SEC? Do you think they can be a bubble team? Can they play meaningful games into early March? Can they maybe make the NCAA tournament? Like, that's a completely different lens than we talk about with baseball around here. That's understood. So just wanted to kind of set the stage here as I'm a little bit critical of LSU's pitching because I did not think that LSU's starting pitching excelled this weekend. And while they did win every game, and while there was certainly some positive, if we're talking through a championship lens, all of those guys need to elevate a little bit. And it starts with Cade Anderson, who took the ball on Friday. And look, Cade Anderson struck out 10 of the first 20 Kansas State hitters that he faced. He was great. The breaking ball was very good. Fastball had life. He didn't throw quite as many strikes as he would like, but he did get to 92 pitches and got into the 6th inning, struck out 10, and only allowed 2 earned runs. However, for the 3rd straight start, he tapered off. In the opening start, on a chilly Friday afternoon against Purdue Fort Wayne, his fastball velocity dipped in the 5th inning, and that's to be expected. Just part of early season baseball. Nothing wrong with that. But in the second time out, he lost his command late in the start. Gave up 2 walks, gave up 2 hits to Omaha, was knocked out of the game in the 6th inning. And I told you last week on Friday, like, I think he's going to be dealing against Kansas State. And for 5 innings, he was. He had 9 strikeouts. He had shut them out. He was great. And then he gave up back-to-back homers on 2 hanging breaking balls. And giving up 2 home runs is not the end of the world. LSU still won the game. But we're talking about an ace here. And we're, to further that, talking about the ace of a team that wants to compete for championships. And you got to hold your stuff into the 6th and 7th inning if you want to be that dude. And Cade Anderson hasn't quite gotten there yet. That is certainly not to suggest that he won't. He just hasn't yet. So to me, the next 2 outings for Cade Anderson are going to be vital. You're going to face one more non-conference team North Alabama, who's not any good, on Friday. He needs to be really good in that game. And then you face the worst team in the SEC to open things in Missouri, and he needs to be really good in that one. And at that point, you'll hopefully see a little bit of growth. It took Gage Jump some time to ease in as well. He got knocked around in his first few SEC starts, and by the end of the season, he was lights out. I expect that Anderson will have a great season, but he's progressing right now, and he's run out of steam 3 starts in a row. So that's the first guy. Anthony Ianson is next, and he got lit up for 3 innings by Nebraska. I mean, lit up. He was not fooling anyone. Fastball was getting ambushed. Looping breaking ball was getting hit hard. I mean, they put a 3 spot up in the first inning. They scored another one in the second. They scored another one in the third. Like, it was not good through 3 innings. Nebraska had 5 runs on 5 hits. Now, he settled in, and he gobbled up some outs. And most importantly for Ianson, when LSU started to chip away and the Tigers put up a 3 spot in the 4th, he came back, got him 1-2-3. Tigers scored again in the 5th. He comes back, strikes out the side. So when LSU turned the tide of the game, he assisted in that. But he got hit really hard early in the game. I think the biggest adjustment that Ianson made in game on Saturday was instead of going to that kind of get me over breaking ball that we've seen from him a little bit, he went to the sharper slider and he missed some more bats. He's not going to dominate. Anthony Ianson is not going to go out there in SEC games very often and go 7 innings of 9 strikeout shutout ball. Like, that's not really in the repertoire. What LSU needs from Ianson is to make sure he gets 15 to 18 outs and holds the rope. And when I say hold the rope, I mean 2 or 3 runs, not 5. Nebraska came out swinging the bats hot, no question. But Ianson bowed his neck a little bit and got LSU into the middle of the game and gave LSU a chance to win. But I didn't think he was at his best either because he got lit up, as I said, in the first few innings. He needs to take a little bit of a step in the next couple of weeks as well. And then you've got Sunday where Chase Shores was okay. I thought it was, this is the word I used in my column for Louisiana Sports Line, I thought it was an uneven outing for Chase Shores. 5 innings, 7 hits, gave up 4 earned runs, walked 3 guys, only struck out 5. He got hit a little bit. Now, it's important to put the caveat in there. LSU scored 7 runs in the second and 2 more in the third. He was staked to a 7-0 and then a 9-2 lead. So that changes the way you approach the game a little bit. And that, in that sense, it's okay to give up some hits. But Sam Houston's not any good. And they had some quality at bats against Chase Shores. I thought his slider, when he executed it, looked awesome. The fastball life was plenty. It was running, and it was 98. Just not his best outing. And I think one that can be improved upon for sure. I like the way that LSU's rotation sits right now. I like Anderson at the front. I like Ianson in the middle. I love Shores as a potential guy on the back end. And I know that people are going to look at Ianson's outing and say that it doesn't look dominating, and Connor Ware's coming and William Schmidt's coming, and that time may come. I'm not there yet. Those guys may work their way into the weekend rotation. Again, I'm not there yet. But as I look at LSU from a starting staff perspective this weekend, I would grade it out as a C. I did not think it was great. The pieces are great. Anderson striking out 10 of his first 20 hitters is great. Ianson throwing 2 huge goose eggs up there with perfect innings as LSU was climbing back in the game was great. Shores getting the pitch count up to 89, featuring that good slider, the velocity being up where it was, all that's very good. But again, to go back to the beginning point of this segment, we're talking about competing for championships. We're talking about guys that you're trying to count on in regionals, in supers, in Omaha. And they weren't at that level this weekend. They don't have to be in February and early March. But I'm calling it like I see it. They need to pitch better over the next couple of weeks before you get into the grind of SEC play. It is not an issue where I sit here and look at LSU's pitching staff and go, I don't think they're good enough. It's an issue of looking at them this weekend and going, they need to be a little bit better than that. And I think those are 2 very different things. The talent is there. They're executing at times. They just need to be a little bit more consistent than they were. And look, it wasn't like LSU got knocked all over the yard. Kansas State scored 5 runs on Friday, and Nebraska scored 6 runs on Saturday. That's not great, but it's not like you're getting lit up. And I thought there were some good bullpen outings as well. LSU lost the strike zone far too often on Sunday. You really don't need to be issuing 10 walks in a game like they did on Sunday. Shores issued 3. Cade Woods came in and issued 2. He's not going to be a high leverage guy, so that one's not as big a deal. Cooper Williams, who had control issues on Wednesday, came back on Sunday and issued a walk in 2/3 of an inning. Connor Benj walked 2 guys. Maverick Rizzi walked 2 more. Now, that was in the rain, so I'm not as concerned about that, but too many walks on Sunday. And then I thought on Saturday, just too many hits. Gave up 11 hits. Niansen got hit a lot early in the game. But shout out to Kason Evans, who was just named the SEC's co-freshman of the week. He was great to close the game out on Friday through 2 innings of shutout ball, struck out 3, and you got some good bullpen work from Zach Cowan and certainly William Smith, who looked great on Saturday's game, closing that thing out. The breaking ball hammer to finish it was a work of art. So I think it's something that I feel good about LSU's pitching staff, but I just didn't love it over the weekend. And I think that was the most interesting storyline of the weekend. Now, that out of the way, the offense was awesome. And I want to talk about LSU's offense, start to finish, Friday through Sunday, 1 through 9, 1 through 12 even, when they went to the bench for some guys. Like, there was so much to like about what LSU did offensively against what I would consider some pretty average SEC-type pitching on Friday and Saturday. I think if you look at Jacob Frost, Kansas State starter, you look at Ty Horn, Nebraska's starter, some of the bullpen arms that LSU saw over the weekend, like I think some of those guys could absolutely slot into an SEC rotation or bullpen, and LSU was clinical offensively. We'll talk about some of the standouts on the offensive side of things when we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Tell you this all the time, but the Palmer fam uses bathtub every single night about 6:15. Myers man gets all the toys out. He insists on putting all 400 of them into the bathtub every single night. And he doesn't even play with them. He just takes them out and puts them in there. But we use the bathtub is the point. Maybe you don't use your bathtub. You don't take a bath, you just take showers, but you've got a bathtub in there. Maybe it's a little bit dingy, maybe it's a little bit old, maybe this doesn't look very good. Take it out. Take out that bathtub that you don't use and put in a gorgeous glass walk-in shower. Changes the functionality of the bathroom, changes the aesthetic of the bathroom, adds a little value to your home. Everybody's happy when you do that. Contact David Duvall and his team at OneBathAndClosets.com and get that free consultation. It doesn't cost you anything to sit down with David and talk about what idea you may have. Maybe you're not sure what you want to do, and he can help you through that process. Go to OneBathAndClosets.com, look at the pictures of their fantastic work, and as I mentioned, get that free consultation started this week. It's One Bath and Closets. Find them online at OneBathAndClosets.com.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime. At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you. At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Family-owned and community-driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. Find them online, gcopnet.com. Shout out to our guy, Trey Beal. If you're in the market for printers, scanners, copiers, Gulf Coast Office Products has got you covered. They've got clients in every single vertical market you can think of. So whatever it is that you do, they know what the needs are as far as printing, scanning, and copying goes. They can make sure you're in the right equipment at the right price. They've got a phenomenal service department as well. Just great people to work with over there at Gulf Coast Office Products. You can service you statewide wherever you are. Certainly here in Baton Rouge, they got a warehouse over $1 million of product right there on hand. Reach out to them at gcopnet.com. That is Gulf Coast Office Products. LSU was awesome on offense this weekend. Just great. Specifically over the last two games, LSU scored 23 runs on 30 hits. Listen to these numbers in LSU's offensive onslaught in the Saturday and Sunday games. With 2 outs in the inning, LSU was 17 for 33. That is .515 for a batting average with 2 outs. And with runners in scoring position over the last 2 games, LSU was 14 for 33. That is .424 with runners in scoring position. Just awesome execution. They did a little bit of everything in the game. You finally saw a couple of big flies as the wind was blowing out on Sunday. Stephen Milam hit a missile out to left field. Ethan Fry got one up in the jet stream and got it out. But they also executed a couple of sack bunts. Michael Braswell got 2 bunts down, and Chris Stanfield immediately came up and plated both of those times with an RBI ground out. I thought that was exceptional work. So the versatility of LSU's offense was on full display, and the biggest development of the entire weekend, unequivocally for me, was the protection that Daniel Dickinson offered Jared Jones. You look at what Kansas State was looking to do, and they were trying to pitch around Jared Jones. They walked him in the 3rd inning with a runner on first, and immediately you saw Daniel Dickinson come up and lay down a perfect safety squeeze to play to run. Then, in the 7th, the game was tied. They walked Jared Jones intentionally with 1 on and 1 out to mean there were 2 runners on base, and Dickinson came up and hit an opposite field 3-run home run. That is exactly what LSU needs. And in that game, where very clearly Kansas State was steering around Jared Jones, you saw a 6 RBI game from Daniel Dickinson. 6 runs driven in. He's not going to do that every time, but if that fear is there to an extent, it's going to change the way the teams pitch to Jared Jones. Right now, I still think they're going to steer clear. But if we get into April and Daniel Dickinson is doing to SEC teams what he's doing right now, then that makes LSU's lineup really, really difficult to deal with. Because Curiel is an on-base machine up at the top. Jones fits in right there in front and behind him. And then you've got Dickinson behind those 2 guys, and he's just cleaning everything up. Right now, Daniel Dickinson in 11 games as an LSU Tiger has driven in 21 runs. Second place on LSU's list is Jones with 15, and there are only 3 guys on the entire team that have double-digit runs driven in. Daniel Dickinson has 21 RBI to this point in the calendar. He's been awesome, awesome, awesome to watch. But it was everybody, really, this weekend. I mean, Curiel was phenomenal. He's leading the team in hitting at 415. Jones is hitting .410. He's taking his walks. He leads the team with 12 of those. Stanfield's up to .375. He got a couple of RBI hits yesterday. Milam, who started out a little clunky on opening weekend, has been sizzling since. He's up to .372. Jake Brown, when given the opportunity, is hitting the ball very hard. Dickinson's been great. Josh Pearson stepped up this weekend and was knocking the ball all over the place. He had 3 doubles in one game. That was on Sunday against Sam Houston. If you take every position on the diamond, even catcher, where you saw Luis Hernandez come through with a couple of RBI hits yesterday, like, it's just everybody is clicking offensively, and it's exactly the kind of offense that Jay Johnson talked about LSU having. Like, they don't have 2 guys on this team that are going to hit 20 home runs. They don't. You don't have a situation where you had White and Cruz, where you had White. I mean, you don't have Braden Montgomery and Jay Laviolette from last year at A&M. Like, that's not the identity of this offense. The identity of this offense is going to be a lot of hard outs, a lot of doubles, a lot of innings where they string hits together, and a lot of guys that have the threat of a home run that aren't necessarily home run hitters. That's the kind of offense Jay Johnson wants this group to play, and I thought over the weekend you saw it in spades. Against Sam Houston, you scored 12 runs on 13 hits. Against Nebraska on Saturday, you scored 11 runs on 17 hits. They scored 11 runs on 17 hits without the courtesy of a single home run. And then on Friday against Kansas State, double-digit hits again. You had 11 of those, and you had 8 runs. So I just thought from start to finish, all weekend long, LSU was really good offensively. And that comes on the heels of a weekend against Omaha where you had a 10-inning stretch where you didn't swing the bats at all. So that's an improvement from the weekend prior with a step up in competition. I thought LSU offensively was great. And that's what they're going to have to be to compete for the things that we talk about in this part of the country every single March, April, May, June. Competing for championships. And this looked to me like a championship offense. They're still trying to figure out what they want to be, trying to figure out what they're going to do in right field. Pearson's kind of wrestling his way into the starting job right there, but they're not going to sit Brown and Larson and Fry too consistently. Those guys are going to get their chances. But Stanfield's kind of holding his ground in center field, and then you've got kind of everything else locked up. Maybe you could see some platoon at third base. Maybe Reeves could play a little bit for Braswell. Braswell's not stinging the ball. He's hitting 154, but as I mentioned, he executed a couple of bunts and got a big hit in yesterday's game. So I don't have, as critical as I was of the pitching in 3 wins, I don't have a lot of criticism right now of what LSU is doing on the offensive side of things. Jay Johnson takes a ton of pride in coaching the offensive side of the baseball. Ever since he got to LSU, the Tigers have hit, and this team doesn't appear to be an exception to that. They've got a lot of depth. They've got a lot of talent, and I thought against what appeared to me to be some average-level SEC arms, LSU's offense was just clicking from start to finish. And there have been some who are critical of LSU, quote-unquote, leaving too many guys on base. And I understand where that's coming from because LSU does leave a lot of guys on base. But the reason they leave a lot of guys on base is because they're so prolific at getting on base. And I mentioned it's hard to hold your argument when you're talking about LSU leaving too many guys on base when you look at the statistics and with runners in scoring position in the last 2 games of the weekend, LSU hit .424. Yeah, they leave a lot of guys on base because they have a lot of guys on base. Yes, when you've got a chance to put your foot on Sam Houston's throat and you've got the bases loaded and nobody out and you don't play to run, yes, that's frustrating. That's poor execution. Dickinson swinging the ball in his eyes, that's a guy leaving his plan. That's a guy who's now trying to think about doing too much and driving in too many runs as opposed to handling his at-bat. But LSU's not leaving too many guys on base. They're just getting a lot on base, and sometimes those guys don't come in to score. But when you're hitting .424 with runners in scoring position, you're not leaving too many guys on base. you're swinging the bat really well. And LSU is going to continue to leave guys on base because they're going to continue to get on base. They get hit by a ton of pitches, they walk a ton, and they got a lot of guys who hit the ball hard all over the field. So I thought the LSU offense was fantastic over the weekend in Frisco en route to winning all 3 games. Let's talk a little about defense. I told you in the preseason, I was like, hey, I'm a little concerned with defense in the middle of the field. I don't know who the catcher is, and I think their catching may be an issue. I've not seen Stephen Milam play shortstop, and he may not have a strong enough arm for it. I've not seen Danny Dickinson play a ton of defense, and I'm concerned with how that's going to look. Well, I'm an idiot because Stephen Milam looks awesome at shortstop. He's making plays moving to his left. He's making plays moving in. He made a couple plays to his backhand side. The arm is plenty strong enough when you use his quickness and his movement. And Dickinson has made some phenomenal plays on Friday. So LSU at shortstop and second base. Catcher's still an issue. You saw William Schmidt throw 3 straight wild pitches in a midweek game last week. You saw Kate Arambidi try to backhand short hop a low pitch from Anthony Ianson on Saturday that made the base runner go from first to third because he didn't get in front of it and block it. Like, you're still giving away some free bases at the catcher position that I would wish they wouldn't do. But as far as everybody's going to talk about the flip play where Dickinson goes in the hole and backhand flips it to Milam, who throws across. All that is true. But I'm talking about everything else that they're doing. The routine plays, the plays that you've got to make. LSU looks really good doing it. And then they've made some fantastic plays as well, as I mentioned with Dickinson saving the game. And right before that, Milam threw the guy off the plate that would have won the game as well. So that to me is a huge development through 3 weeks of the season, that LSU on the middle of the field and on defense has been really, really good. And that includes Chris Stanfield, who made a couple of diving catches out there in center field this weekend and looked great doing it. So I am very encouraged by what I'm seeing from LSU. Forward, what the starting pitching continues to look like. You got 2 weeks. I guess that's 5 games this week and then another one the next week. So 6 games before. I'm encouraged by a lot of that. LSU sweeps the weekend in Frisco. We've been talking about it here on this Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is that website. Every car that is on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. That's where you should probably start your process. Start with GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Go through the entire inventory. Find something that may suit your fancy, whether it's the sedan, whether it's the SUV, anything in between. Take a look. They've got them all right there online. And then when you decide what you might be interested in test driving, you can either go to the lot at Airline and PQ, or you can have them come to you. You can do a remote test drive from home, from the office. They're brand ambassadors, happy to come to you to show you the difference in driving a Genesis. When I say Genesis of Baton Rouge, think luxury. When I think luxury, don't say, I can't afford that. You never know. Give it a look. Check them out online, GenesisofBatonRouge.com, GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all legal and finance with the latest in office technology. From and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at 1717 Kitchen and Cocktail. So come out for game day and let our team make you the MVP. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe. My whole team on wild.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
All your printing, scanning, copying needs, go to Gulf Coast Office Products, gcopnet.com. LSU basketball on Saturday lost to Mississippi State 81-69. This game, I could not have forecasted this. We've watched this LSU basketball team all year. They are what they are. They're going to run out the string here over the next 2 weeks, and then it'll be in the rearview mirror. But if you would have told me, as of mid-January, that when LSU went to the hump, that they were going to only turn the ball over 9 times and only give up 8 offensive rebounds to Mississippi State, I would go, oh, that's one of their best games of the year. They'll probably win that one. And you're going to toss in the fact that Cam Carter lit it up in the first half. Like, you're checking all the boxes now. What does LSU need to do to win? Well, Cam Carter's got to be awesome. We check. In the first half, he had 18 points. You got to stop turning the ball over, which they've done now for like a month. Check. And then you got to stop getting annihilated on the defensive glass. And they did. Mississippi State, in the game, 40 minutes of action, had 9 second chance points. That's it. However, that number is skewed because you've got to look a little bit more deeply into what happened in the game. And LSU, really for the first time in a few weeks, just couldn't play defense. Like, LSU's defense, the team is not good. The results have not been acceptable. None of that is good. But statistically speaking, LSU's defense, especially on the first shot, has been pretty good this year. And they could not stop Mississippi State. They could not stop Josh Hubbard. Josh Hubbard goes for 30 points. He was 9 of 18 shooting. He didn't even shoot it well from 3, just 2 for 9. But he's 9 of 18 from the floor, and he made 10 free throws. And he goes for 30 in the game. It's his 4th career 30-point game. He also did it in the PMAC last year. And that was LSU's undoing. Mississippi State in this game shot 57% from the floor in the game. In the second half, Mississippi State shot 64% from the floor. That is just torching LSU. And interestingly, the game was really a tale of 2 halves for LSU on the offensive side. What have we said now for like better than a month? LSU basically offensively has got to go as Cam Carter goes. And Cam Carter, LSU got smoked in those 2 games. And he was going to have to be better in this game. And he comes out in the first half, and he is on it. 7 of 9 from the floor, knocks down 4 of his 6 threes in the first half. He's back in his old stomping grounds where he once played. He's got 18 points at halftime. LSU goes to the break right there in the game. I think it was tied at halftime. Let me look. Yeah, LSU had a 2-point lead at halftime because Carter was great, had 18 points. But in it got to him. 2 points after halftime and got run off the floor. It's just like the game was a microcosm of the season for LSU. When Cam Carter's good, LSU's good. Led by 2. Cam Carter goes south, LSU goes south. Because you just don't really have anybody else that you can go to help you out. LSU had 2 guys in double figures. Damian Collins had 10, and Damian Collins got to his 10 points on 3 of 10 shooting. Who was doing basically all of the lifting the entire first half and tried earlier in the second half. But if you take Cam Carter, the numbers get real putrid real quick. Now, while Mississippi State was just drilling shots left and right, LSU outside of Cam Carter was outside of Cam Carter from the three-point line, 4 for 26. That is 50. He just doesn't have any help. And I don't know how much Jalen Reed would have helped this team offensively. I know they were going to lean on him some, but you have gotten essentially no help. He is consistent as you would like. And that was evidenced on Saturday when Victorious Miller and Curtis Givens go 0 for 6 from the floor. All of them were threes. They combined to score 3 points and turn the ball over 3 times. Like, that's what you got from your freshman starting backcourt. Jai Bailey kind of does. You couldn't get much of anything else. Like Mike Williams and Jordan Sears, those are your veteran guard options. They combined and made 3 of 13 from 3. Like, that's just not even close to getting it done. And Mississippi State, we said entering the game on Friday, when we talked about this game briefly, it's like, hey, this is not your typical Chris Jans team. They're not great on defense. They're pretty good on offense. They showed that, scoring 81 points, but they held LSU to 69, and LSU just didn't have an answer. Specifically in the paint, you look at Mississippi State, outscored LSU in paint points. See, where's that number right there? 44-20. So it's just which Mississippi State was really, really efficient shooting the ball at nearly 60% for the entirety of the game. So not going to spend any more significant time on LSU basketball here on this show. I feel like I've got to mention it because we kind of cover the team, but not going to spend a bunch of segments talking about a team that's now 3-13 in league play. Got 2 more to go. They'll go to Rupp Arena on Tuesday in a game that will not go well for LSU, and then they'll come back home and play Texas A&M on Saturday. I give them an outside chance to be competitive in that one just because there are times when Texas A&M is really bad offensively. It's like Wade Taylor, and then what else is there? But I just don't. I don't anticipate that this week will go very well, and they'll go to the SC tournament. They'll probably play 1 or 2 games. Take this war chest that's been reported in NIL dollars and go get some more players, because that's the name of the game, is roster assembly, and LSU's got to do a better job entering the 2025-2026 season. So Tigers lose to Mississippi State 81-69. That's an 11 point somewhere. Interesting. Tigers lose at 81-69. We'll come back and close out hour number 1. That's next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group. HighlandIG.com is that website. The Highland Insurance Group prides itself on their technical expertise. They're not here to promise you they're going to save you 20% on your insurance program. They can promise you that you'll be taken care of as far as your coverages. They've got dozens of carriers that they're contracted with as an independent broker, and they'll help you get into the proper position as a business. You never know when that hurricane's coming. You never know when that car accident's going to happen. You never know when the lawsuit's around the corner, and you want to be sure that your insurance program responds. And if you're a business owner and you're not exactly sure what your insurance says, contact the Highland Insurance Group and make sure that your policy is set up to respond. That's what they do with their audits. It's Jonathan Carver and a great team right here in Baton Rouge, the Highland Insurance Group. You can find them online at highlandig.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Happy Lundi Gras out there. If you're catching some parades, appreciate you making us a little part of your day. Hopefully there's reasonable weather tomorrow. It doesn't
Not looking
sound
good.
Doesn't sound like it. I know they've already made a ton of changes to the New Orleans parades. Rex is cutting out the bands, I think, and they're shortening the route and getting everybody off the street by like 11. Doesn't look great weather-wise, but if there's any consolation, the weather over the weekend was awesome.
It was.
So we'll take that. I mean, it's getting a little greedy to hope for like 6 straight days of awesome weather.
It is.
At a certain
Louisiana,
point,
it doesn't happen very often.
And like, I feel like that. What is it fair to say? 80% of people are about done with Mardi Gras today. Like,
yes,
there's 20% that are diehard. They're going to be out there for Lundi Gras. They're going to do Mardi Gras Day, whole thing. But like 80% are like, yeah, once we've done Friday, Saturday, probably a lot of Sunday. Like that's about it.
Yeah, I think so. I think most people are done, especially because a lot of people still have to work probably Monday and Tuesday. So
like us.
Yes.
Not the sales staff.
Nope, they're not here.
Not accounting.
No, they're not here.
Not any of the administrators.
No, they're not here. Just us, yeah.
Great. Does the website take the day off tomorrow?
I don't think so.
Think about that website. You launch the website. Website doesn't turn off.
No.
Website's always there. Always needs more. So you just got to keep feeding the beast, as they say. So we'll be here working tomorrow, unless I'm not here because I'm in the hospital or something. But That's
on the table.
It is. The plan is to be here. I'm on alert. Every time my phone lights up, I look down at it and see what's going on. But as of right now, I'm still doing the show. So here we are. Let's talk about Texas A&M's baseball team, should we? A lot of folks may not be following. I know that this is not the time of year where you're locked in on the other SEC baseball teams because they're not playing each other. A lot of the games are blowouts. But Texas A&M is in a little bit of tailspin here. They're number one in the country entering the week. They lost a game to Cal Poly on Sunday, came back, lost a midweek game where Texas State just smoked them. And then they go to Houston to play at Minute Maid, and they lose the first two games of that series too, and looked pretty lifeless doing it. On Saturday, Texas A&M had 0 runs, 4 hits, and 4 errors in a loss. So it's going to be the popular take, and I'm confident. I could run over to Texags, but I haven't. I'm confident that they're all saying our coach is a failure. We let the players decide who the coach is going to be. He's in over his head. This team's toast. This and that. And that's probably the sentiment because that's generally speaking how fans act. I'm just here to tell you this. They've still got Ryan Prager. Sometimes look at him, and because he doesn't throw as hard as most aces, like his stuff doesn't look like Hagen Smith's. It doesn't look like Paul Skeens. It doesn't look like some of the great SEC aces that we've seen. 92 with the good breaking ball. So I got to tip my hat to the guy. He's been good for 2 years. He's good, and they've still got Jace Laviolette, and they've still got a Caden Kent. These are names that you probably. And I'm just telling you right now, I'm not writing Texas A&M off. I know they lost 4 games in a row. I know they tumbled from number 1 to number 15 in the polls this week. I'm just telling you, I'm not off Texas A&M, and I think they will find it. I think the hiring of Michael Early was probably a little short-sighted. You've got one of the top 15 jobs in America. I think that's fair. I could probably make the case that Texas A&M is a top 10 job in America. And you didn't even conduct a search, really. You just, Schlossnagle bailed, and you took Michael Early because you wanted to keep Jace Laviolette. Process was probably a little bit flawed. I feel like you can't just throw in the towel in Texas A&M. And that's just going to be a brutally difficult series to win games in. I still believe that's going to be a good Texas A&M team. I've got some questions about the back end of the bullpen. I've got some questions about the back end of the rotation. But they're going to hit eventually. They're just not going to go 56. Way too many good players. Losing Grahovic is a tough deal, but they got way too many good players. You look at Tennessee, they are number 1 in the nation in the Baseball America poll. LSU is number 1 in the nation in the D1 baseball poll. I have watched all of LSU, and I've watched a few games of Tennessee. I've probably seen them play some when I can. Right now, if you made me plant my flag, I would say I like Tennessee's team a little bit more than LSU's, but it's close. I thought on paper that Tennessee was going to take a step back this year. Y'all know me. I like proven stuff. It's why I questioned Daniel Dickinson entering the year. It's why I questioned some of the freshman arms early, and they've been great. Because I like proven guys as opposed to projecting what guys are going to do. And they didn't have Christian Moore. They didn't have Blake Burke. They didn't have a lot of those guys that have been really key contributors. And if we're being honest, like Liam Doyle wasn't that great at Ole Miss last year. He's their Friday night starter, and he's been completely unhittable. But they've had guys step up and absolutely rake. So that's a really, really good team that Tennessee has. I think LSU is very good as well. But if you made me put a poll together right now, I would take Tennessee at number 1. They went over to Houston and won all 3 games that they played in that series as well. So good effort from the boys from Knoxville. I think that's a really, really good baseball team. South Carolina, Paul Maneri's team, took it on the chin against Clemson. They lose all 3 games in that in-state series. That was not shocking. I think Clemson's very good. Cam Cantarella is one of the most exciting players in the nation for Clemson, and he's just part of a good team that they've got over there at Clemson. I don't think South Carolina is very good. LSU goes to South Carolina the final week of the season, and I think that's a pretty good draw for your final weekend, because I think that South Carolina is one of the 3 worst teams in the league. And I watched a little bit of their game on Sunday, and you look at that team, and they've got Petrie, who's very good, but outside of that, it's pretty limited offensively, and they don't really have a rotation. Their supposed Friday night guy has been out for 2 weeks, and we don't know when he's coming back. And so Pulmonary's got his hands full from a roster perspective. It's not as bad as the first team that he took over at LSU that was just about barren as far as talent goes, but it's a team that is not up to par with the elite teams in the SEC, therefore the elite teams in the country, and I expect South Carolina to have a hard time qualifying for the NCAA tournament. And they came into the weekend against Clemson undefeated. They had not lost yet, but you play a lot of bad teams. You step up in competition, it doesn't go well. That's one thing you can say about LSU is when the competition did elevate this week, and I think Kansas State's absolutely a tournament team, and I think there's a good chance Nebraska's a tournament team as well. Sam Houston's not, but those 2 teams I think are, and LSU elevated its level of play and was able to win those games. So that's a good thing for LSU. The other team that I wanted to mention briefly is Auburn. Sam Dutton started on Friday for Auburn. Cade Fisher, the Florida transfer who LSU saw in Omaha a couple of years ago, he was dealing with a little bit of discomfort in his lat, so they shut him down. Sam Dutton started on Friday for Auburn. He actually struck some guys out, but like if you're sending Sam Dutton out there on Fridays in the SEC, I'm not real confident with the squad, and that's what Auburn is looking at right now. They've got a couple of good hitters in that lineup, and I'll talk about this when I do power rankings coming up on Wednesday. But Butch Thompson's a really good pitching coach and has done more with less a lot over the course of his career. Even with Mississippi State, when he was the pitching coach there, they did some really good things with some guys that aren't necessarily big leaguers. At Auburn, they've had some big leaguers over the years. Casey Mize certainly comes to mind as the number 1 pick in the draft, but they don't have a ton of talent. This is even, I think, a step back from that. I just don't see a world where Sam Dutton is a Friday starter in the Southeastern Conference. So I wanted to kind of mention that as I'm starting to get a better handle on SEC teams. I had a chance to watch a good bit of baseball over the weekend. No parades for the Palmers as we await the edition here that's coming up. So I had a chance to watch a good bit of baseball over the weekend, and those were some of my takeaways. I'm not burying Texas A&M. I think Tennessee's really, really good. South Carolina looks not good, and Auburn looks not good. I'm still kind of torn a little bit on some of the teams in the league. I'm torn a little bit on Texas, who played great in Las Vegas over the weekend. I'm torn a little bit on Arkansas, who's having some trouble finding offense. But they're pitching great, and that's generally what they're going to do. So I'm kind of torn on them. I'm a little bit torn on Vanderbilt as well, who dropped a game to UConn over the weekend. There are still some teams that I want to see more of, but we're getting close to the start of SEC play next week. And one thing that I can tell you for sure is that LSU has gotten the best draw you can possibly get in the first game. You're talking about getting Missouri at the box in the opener. It's going to be vital that LSU gets at least 2 games in that series, because this is something we talk about this time every year. It's a math game once you get into the SEC, and you can make it really difficult on yourself from a math perspective like LSU did last year. If you get off to a bad start, you can also give yourself some room for error if you can get off to a hot start, and LSU has that opportunity because you're playing the worst team in the league in your ball, and not just the worst team in the league, by far the worst team in the league in your ballpark the first weekend of SEC play. Getting off to a 3-0 start would just be massive, massive, massive for LSU. But first, you got to play 5 games this week. Got 2 midweeks, and then North Alabama comes in this weekend, and then you get ready for Southeastern Conference play the following weekend with Missouri. So a little bit of the dog days here as you get toward the end of non-conference. The newness of the season is worn off. You're still kind of yearning for some competition tick up. You're not going to get that this weekend with a bad North Alabama team, but it's around the corner. Missouri will be there, and then you'll get into the teeth of it the next weekend as Southeastern Conference play really kind of cranks up. So just a few thoughts on the SEC weekend that was in baseball. Our Monday shows are brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, gcopnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products, Trey Buell & Company, do a phenomenal job. Check them out at gcopnet.com. First hour's in the books here. Had a lot of fun. Talked to LSU baseball pitching to start things off. I didn't mean for it to be overwhelmingly negative. I'm just grading on a hard curve here. And LSU's starting pitching, I think, left a little bit to be desired over the weekend. Offensively, I thought LSU was phenomenal. Talked about that in the second segment of the show. Then we did a little bit of basketball at 1:30. If you missed any of that, you want to catch it on demand, you can find it wherever you find your podcasts. It's 1045ESPN.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. If you want your football content, Hunt on LSU, Hunt on Saints. It's all wherever you find your podcast, or, of course, on YouTube. We got a lot to do in hour number 2 as well. The NFL Combine closes its doors this afternoon. What did Will Campbell do for himself? What did Zy Alexander do? We'll talk a little bit about that. Reed Darcy from The Advocate is going to join us at 2:15 to talk a little bit about LSU's women's basketball team and where they go from here. Lajay Johnson in a walking boot. Tigers lose to Ole Miss. Then at 2:30, we'll talk about the Saints potentially releasing Tyron Matthews. Is that a good idea? We'll talk about it. We'll pause for Sports Center. Come back with us for hour number 2. You're listening to a Lundy Graw edition of the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Parish Construction and Roofing.
This is Coach Kim Mulkey. Go to parishbuilt.com for all of your roofing needs.
From your hometown, parishbuilt.com.
When you can't rely on technology, you can rely on Mountain Cold Refreshment.
Dave's back on.
Coors Light. Choose chill.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Sports Center.
I'm Doug Brown with breaking news from the NFL. For the second year in a row, the Bengals put the franchise tag on wideout T. Higgins. If he doesn't get a new long-term contract, he'll get $26.2 million this year. Speaking of contracts, Rams coach Sean McVay says today he was never really worried about quarterback Matthew Stafford getting a restructured deal to stay with the team.
I think there was a lot of narratives out there, and because of the caliber of player he is, there's a lot of stories. But I don't think either Matthew or myself ever really felt like this was a direction we weren't going to go.
Sean McVay. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports the Eagles plan to cut cornerback Darius Slay. That move will save $4.3 million of salary cap space. ESPN has learned Florida State and Clemson will vote tomorrow on a deal that would settle multiple ongoing lawsuits between the schools and the ACC. The conference board of directors will also have to approve it. At issue is the distribution of TV money and the exit fees for schools who hope to leave the conference.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy, coming up Tuesday. We're less than a week away from free agency, so I'll tell you which players can make teams title contenders. It's on Sportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. Reed Darcy talking LSU women's basketball in 15 minutes. It is March now. LSU's home season is in the books for the regular season. They'll be back for the NCAA tournament, I am sure. But are they in trouble as far as seeding goes now that they've lost a couple of games in the last week? What's the latest on Flau'jae Johnson? All that with Reed Darcy coming up 15 minutes from right now. Also, should the Saints move on from Tyron Matthew? We will discuss that later on in this hour as well. If you missed any of the first hour, talked a lot of LSU baseball in the first 30 minutes of the show, and then got into some LSU basketball and then some SEC baseball to finish things up. So you can catch any of that on demand wherever you get your podcast. Let's talk about the NFL Combine, which is finishing up as we speak up in Indianapolis. The NFL just has a remarkable way of staying in the news cycle all year round. You can't shake it at all. You've got from the Super Bowl, you go right into the Combine, you get into the free agency and the draft, and then you get into mini camps and OTAs and schedule releases and the whole thing. You just never really lose sight of what's going on in the NFL. And the Combine took center stage for the league over the last week in Indianapolis, and some of the LSU guys were there, and I thought it was a really, really good week for Will Campbell. Will Campbell tested, in my opinion, very, very well in the 40-yard dash, which, look, left tackles not using the 40-yard dash a ton. We get it. But he did break 5 seconds. He was 4.98 in the 40-yard dash, which was a good number for him, I think. One of the numbers that really stood out to me, and this, quite honestly, might be a little bit more on the negative side than on the positive side for Will Campbell, negative side for Zy Alexander. Will Campbell out-jumped on the vertical Zy Alexander. Will Campbell had a 32-inch vertical. Zy Alexander was 31.5 inches. But to me, that shows some explosiveness for Will Campbell as well. A lot was made of Will Campbell's arm size, the arm length that he measured in the measurements earlier in the week. And then Will Campbell went right to the podium and was like, you can turn on the tape. Not one time when I get beat do you think, oh, man, his arms aren't long enough. And so we'll see whoever takes Will Campbell in this draft and where they decide to slot him. I feel like he's going to be given an opportunity to play tackle. And I think that this week in Indianapolis did nothing to hurt his chances. I thought he tested well. I thought he ran well. I thought he jumped well. I know he's going to do very, very well in those interview rooms. So I think a good week for Will Campbell. I think the testing may have hurt Zy Alexander. This is just my opinion. I certainly don't have any inside sources in the league that are indicating anything to me. I just am reading the numbers off the page. Zy Alexander ran a 4.56, which is not awesome for a corner. Talk about the vertical. Will Campbell had a 32-inch vertical. Savion Jones had a 33-inch vertical. And Zy Alexander came in at 31.5, lower than Savion Jones and Will Campbell, two guys. I mean, Will Campbell's over 300 pounds, and Savion Jones is a big physical defensive end. Those guys had a higher vertical than Zy Alexander. You go to the broad jump, Savion Jones, 9 feet 11 inches. Zy Alexander, 9 feet 8 inches. So, again, beaten in one of the explosive drills by a lineman. I don't know that that's super good. The only LSU Tiger that did the bench press was Savion Jones. He put up 19 reps on the bench. I thought that as I mentioned, the winner of the combine for LSU was probably Will Campbell. I think that Zy Alexander had a tough go of it. I thought Savion Jones acquitted himself pretty nicely. He broad jumped 9 feet 11 inches and had a vertical of 33 inches. Savion Jones is an interesting case because that's a guy who was kind of figuring to be the next dude at LSU. You had a kind of a run there where you had Caleb Chason, you had B.J. Ojulari, and you thought that next up would probably be Savion Jones, and he just didn't really pop his first 3 years. He came in from St. James, long athlete with all the tools that you could have, and just never really put it together until the final year. And Kevin Peoples came in and really coached him and Braden Swinson up, and you saw a different player this past year in Savion Jones than you had his first 3 years at LSU. It didn't show up necessarily in the pass rush part of the game. He wasn't a huge pass rusher for LSU. Swinson handled a lot of that. But against the run, at the point of attack, setting the edge, those types of things, I thought Savion Jones did a pretty good job. He gets to go to the combine, and I thought, again, acquitted himself pretty nicely in those drills. I think Savion Jones is going to be a mid-round draft choice, and hopefully he makes it in the league. That would be awesome for him. Miles Frazier, testing-wise, was okay. 5.2 in the 40-yard dash. The vertical was 31 inches. His broad jump was 9 feet. None of that is eye-popping at all. What's going to help Miles Frazier is his effort at the Senior Bowl. By all accounts, Jake and T-Bob were there. The folks that were there in scouting terms with the reviews that came out afterward, it sounds like Miles Frazier did an awesome job in the Senior Bowl prep and the workouts, and it sounds like that's going to be a huge feather in his cap. There's a lot of tape that's out on Miles Frazier right now. He played a ton of college football. He played a couple of years prior to LSU, and then he started for 3 years at LSU. So he's got 5 years of football that's right there on tape. And when you do that, you've got ample opportunity to be scouted, and then he goes to the combine. He was okay, but again, I think the tape and the workouts at the Senior Bowl are going to be a big deal for him. So that was kind of my takes from the combine. Braden Swinson did participate in the 3-cone and the 20-yard shuttle, but he didn't do anything else. So I think the tape is going to be Braden Swinson's best friend. He does something that you absolutely positively must have. I don't know that he's toward the top of this draft as far as the edge rushers and the guys getting after and affecting the passers, but you figure 3rd, 4th round, I think Braden Swinson will have his name called, and Kevin Peoples deserves a ton of credit for that as well. So if you want a full report on the combine, you can find the times up there at NFL.com. I'm also this afternoon going to have a piece up at LouisianaSports.net that details what the guys did in the combine. Winner, I thought Will Campbell, maybe not on the positive side. Zy Alexander and those explosive numbers, just not quite great. But Zy had a good year in coverage, so hopefully that film helps him out in a way that maybe the testing does not. So that's your look at LSU at the Combine up in Indianapolis. If you're looking for LSU football content all year long, you can find it Hunt on LSU. There's no baseball, there's no basketball, there's no women's basketball, there's no nothing except football on that channel. So go check that out wherever you find your podcast, or of course on YouTube. It is Hunt on LSU. Got a lot to do over the last 50 minutes of the show here. We're going to talk Saints. Should the Saints cut Tyron Matthew, or should they keep the old Tiger around? We'll talk about that a little bit later. But when we come back, Reed Darcy covers the LSU women's basketball team for The Advocate. We'll get caught up on what's new with them as the most important time of year is upon us in the basketball world. It is, of course, March, and the NCAA tournament is just 2 weeks away. So we'll talk with Reed Darcy coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every single model in the Genesis line was given the IIHA top safety pick. Some of them were given top safety picks plus. Safety is very, very important to the folks at Genesis, and I know it's important to you, the car buyer. When you get behind the wheel of a Genesis, you'll feel the difference. You'll see how sleek and stylish it is. You'll see all those bells and whistles that are there for you. You'll feel the comfort, but you'll rest assured that you've got one of the safest vehicles on the road. It's vital to the folks over at Genesis, and you can get behind the wheel at Genesis of Baton Rouge. You may not have been there. It's on Airline at Pico, right across from Women's Hospital. If you haven't been, stop on by. You're probably going to be on Airline Highway anyway if you're buying a vehicle in Baton Rouge. Just make the stop into Genesis and see the difference. Let their brand ambassadors get you behind the wheel. Get behind there and see that Genesis difference. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
John Rothstein hit the tweet over the weekend. This is March. It is March. It's March the 3rd, and that means it is officially time to start thinking about the NCAA basketball tournament, both the men and the women. LSU's men probably not going to be in it. The women will be in it. The question is, can they make a run towards another championship? Reed Darcy covers the team for the Advocate. He's good enough to give us a few minutes here on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Reed, thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm doing great, Hunt. How are you, man?
Doing quite well. Let's talk about the injury to Flau'jae Johnson first, because obviously that was the news of the weekend. Flau'jae in a walking boot. Kim Mulkey announced that she's not going to participate in the SEC tournament. They're going to try to get her as healthy as possible. What can you tell us about the injury, how long it's been there, and what her prospects are for the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, so we know it is shin inflammation. That is the official term that Kim Mulkey used to describe it yesterday. So if you want to call it shin inflammation, shin splints, I think it's up to you. And we know Flau'jae's been battling this for a couple of weeks now. Ever since LSU really lost to Texas, I think it's when it's really been bugging her. If you remember from that game, LSU had her listed as questionable the day before, and then she was a game-time decision. She ended up playing around 37 minutes that day, and then Mulkey said she was fine. And then after that, she didn't pop up on the availability report until Saturday. But once she did, she was out. And then Mulkey said on Sunday that she was shutting her down for the SEC tournament. So that kind of issue is just a pain management type of deal. It really can only get better with time and with rest. And so I think that's how LSU is attacking it. They're trying to play it safe, make sure that some of that pain can subside by the time the games really matter in the NCAA tournament.
This is an impossible question to answer, I know, but just your general sense. What is your expectation of Flau'jae's ability to play in the NCAA tournament? Should she look like her old self, or do you think she's going to be compromised?
I think she'll look like her old self. I think a good 3 weeks is probably a nice little resting period to get her back to full strength. You know, it's still a pain management deal, you know, and I think that's enough time to probably give her what she needs to get back to, if not 100%, close to 100%. I think that's the calculus that LSU is making here. I think she gets up for big games. If you remember last year in the NCAA tournament, that was really when she started ascending into the star that she is now, right? It was those games that she was one of the best guards in all the country in the tournament, right? And she really helped LSU win the Sweet 16 game against UCLA and get to the Elite Eight. I think she'll be ready to go. She'll be gearing up, and it sort of seems like the spotlight, when the spotlight is at its brightest, she's at her best, and so I think she'll be ready to go once the NCAA tournament starts.
Kim Mulkey has had her teams ready for March for decades now, and you would imagine this would be no different. However, you are coming in here with a couple of recent losses to Alabama and Ole Miss. Is there a common thread to those two losses that needs to be answered before they start playing for keeps?
I think the common thread is that they were both close games, and LSU didn't execute its offense well enough down the stretch of those close games. We've seen throughout the season that LSU has done a really good job of closing out games, right? If you think back to both Tennessee games, you know, Kentucky game, Oklahoma, and even back to the non-conference when they played Stanford and Washington, they did a really good job of closing out those close games. Recently, it hasn't been as successful, right? Texas, they lost that close game, and now two of them to Alabama and Ole Miss. I think if you look at the Alabama loss in particular, there's a through line between that one and the Texas loss. That's the free throws, right? Yeah. LSU missed 9 free throws, I think, against Texas, and then they missed 7, or was it 9 against Alabama? I'm getting them mixed up, but the point is that LSU missed a bunch of free throws in close games, and that's one of the main reasons why they lost. Against Ole Miss, they couldn't really get enough offense from their contributors, not named Anissa Morrow and Michaela Williams, and they couldn't find enough offense to keep pace with an Ole Miss team. They really caught fire from three-point range. So I think if you look at the free throws and the scoring they're getting from their role players and their bench contributors, it hasn't been good enough to pick up a couple wins towards the end of the regular season here.
Too many turnovers yesterday. How much of that do you attribute to not having Flau'jae out there, who's one of your primary ball handlers?
Yeah, that was big. I think LSU went in the second half once Ole Miss turned up its pressure, and then the backcourt. It went with a couple ball handlers last year, Poa and Miracle Shepherd, to really try to break that press, and I think they did a good job to give LSU good minutes. But the problem is when you have both of them on the floor, it really doesn't open up much space for Kaylin Gilbert, right? And she's your scorer. She's that extra shot creator that you need, especially when you don't have Flau'jae Johnson. So because LSU needed extra ball handling on the floor, she kind of took a step back, and I think they really could have used her scoring down the stretch of that game, especially because they didn't have Flage in the game. So I think maybe, just need an extra shot creator, right, in close games like that. And Flage wasn't available to do that. And so maybe, once she gets back, maybe she'll have that added element. But I think LSU really needs to try to figure out a way to get more consistent production from its ball handlers, especially shooting and scoring production. They need to find a way to get Kaylee Gilbert going because they're going to need her not only this week in the SEC tournament, but they're going to need her once the NCAA tournament starts as well.
Look, I'm not an expert on USC, UCLA, UConn, even South Carolina, but I know LSU's guards are good enough to play with anybody. Is LSU good enough in the front court outside of Morrow to make a real run at this thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think they have what they need in the front court. The rebounding is fine. They lost Angel Reese, but the rebounding hasn't really taken too much of a hit, and rebounding is a huge deal for a Kim Mulkey team, especially this one that likes to play a lot in transition. They really have to clean the defensive glass, and they've done a good job of that this season. I think between Anissa and between Samaya Smith and Jersey Wolfenbarger, there's enough size, height, and length there to really do what they need to do on the defensive glass and then get out in transition and run. So I'm not exactly too concerned about their size and their length. I think they can defend some of the top post players in the country that way. When you look at a team like, say, UCLA, say LSU runs into them again. UCLA is one of probably the best center in the country, Lauren Betts, that played her last year.
Yeah.
I think LSU has enough size to compete with her and to guard her and to really hold her in check. But I think it does need more scoring out of those positions, right? Samaya Smith didn't score in the second half yesterday. It could have used a little bit more offensive production from her, especially since the guards weren't giving you much scoring either. So I think that they're okay on the rebounding. A lot of that has to do with Anissa, but I think, just like as it goes for all the other role players, they could use some more scoring from those two inside.
What do you think Kim Mulkey thinks of her team? I always enjoy her press conferences and what she has to say. And what do you think she's thinking right now?
I think that she thinks that at their best, they can win the national championship, that is inside of this team. There's a version of this team that can make it to the Final Four, and once they get to the Final Four, I think Kim Mulkey likes her chances of winning a national championship. But there's the matter of having to get that version of them out, right, in time for the NCAA tournament. I think she's probably wishing she had a little bit more consistent point guard play. She's probably wishing she had a little bit more scoring off the bench more consistently. And I think if she's looking at those two things and she's saying, hey, if I can figure out a way to get those things working by the time the tournament heats up, then you've got the makings of a Final Four team. But until then, until those two things figured out, LSU could easily find itself on the outside of the Final Four looking in. Whether that loss comes in the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight, I'm not sure. But the thing is that LSU has as much talent as anybody in the country when you look at the three stars. It just needs to find the right complement of role players that really accentuate their strengths and really bring out the best of them, because those three, they can get you all the way. It's a matter of getting enough production around them.
Is it your opinion that the rest of the country is a little bit weaker than it has been in the last 4 or 5 years when you look at the monsters that South Carolina has produced and Caitlin Clark being a real problem? Do you think that the top of the sport is a little bit weaker this year?
I don't know if I would say that. I think you don't have those one or two dominant teams that you had in recent past, but you do have 7 or 8 teams, I think, that can really make a run at a title. And I think that's a little bit different than it's been in years past. The talent is a little bit more spread out this year. There's a little more parity. And I think there's not a whole lot separating the number 1 team in the country, the number 2 team in the country from maybe the number 8 team or the number 9 team in the country, right? LSU right now in the AP poll, they're number 9, and Texas is number 1. And LSU went on the road to Texas, and they had a double-digit lead in the second half in that game. So I don't think there's a whole lot of separating between all those teams that are grouped together at the top. I think the national champion will probably come from that group, but I don't know which one it is. I think they have all got pretty compelling cases to win it all.
LSU is the number 3 seed in the SEC tournament. They will play Friday night in Greenville, South Carolina. Reed Darcy will be there. Thanks for the time. Safe travels to South Carolina, sir.
Yep. Happy Mardi Gras. Y'all be good.
Same to you. That is Reed Darcy of The Advocate. I'm not gonna grind a lot of LSU women's basketball in November and December. That's not really my speed. But once they get to this time of the year, it is certainly interesting. And one of the most interesting aspects of this whole thing with women's basketball is I feel like there's a lot of Kim Mulkey. There's a lot of Skip Bertman in Kim Mulkey in that there's probably a lot of fidgeting that's done early. There's probably not a lot of importance put on one game here or there early in the season. It's just about learning how to maximize things at the end. And Skip was a master at that, and Kim Mulkey is a master at that. And LSU certainly has some shortcomings in the front court. There's no two ways about that. You don't have someone to fill Angel Reese's shoes. But they've got 3 guards that can go get it. And you add Anissa Morrow to that mix as well, and they can score on just about anybody. And Kim Mulkey's teams generally play really good defense. I'm fascinated to see how this team shakes out once they get to the games that really matter. And I think it's brilliant to sit Flau'jae for 2 weeks. I feel like a lot of teams won't do that in various sports. They keep running a player back out there at 75% and just hope that the time helps. Just get her off her feet. Get her off her feet. You need her to be awesome. 75% of Flau'jae is not good enough to get this thing done. You need her to be as close to 100% as possible. And it doesn't matter on Friday night in Greenville. The game doesn't matter. It might move you down from the 2 line to the 3 line. All that does is change your uniform color in the Sweet 16. I don't care. So I'm fascinated to watch this team as they now start playing for keeps come 2 weeks from now when they get into the NCAA tournament. LSU, as Reed mentioned, the number 9 team in the country in the polls, and they are playing at Friday, 7:30 Central Time from Greenville in Bon Secours Wellness Arena, whatever that is. But that's when they'll play. Their opponent will be determined on Thursday. So we'll talk a little bit more about LSU women's basketball as things progress this month. Let's take a time out. When we come back, should the Saints cut Tyron Matthew? That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe. My whole team on wild.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac. Our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
So, the NFL Combine was this past week and weekend, and the most newsworthy thing that goes on at the Combine is folks running 40s and lifting weights and jumping and all that. But it's also a big gossip hub. Just get a lot of GMs, a lot of scouts, a lot of coaches around having some cocktails, eating dinner. Reporters are around, and things just get tossed about Combine week. And one of the things that happened this week was the initial report from Sportskeeda's Tony Pauline, and he wrote an article saying that the Saints are considering releasing Tyron Matthew. There's 1 year left on Tyron's deal. And the question is, would this be a wise move? Now, moving on from Tyron Matthew does not save the Saints any money. It, in fact, hurts them financially. The 1 year that's left on Tyron Matthews' deal, in my opinion, is not a year of significant consequence when it comes to wins and losses. I know that probably rubs some people the wrong way. You want to lace them up, go play and compete, and that may be the way the Saints are approaching it. I'm sure it is. But I'm sitting here analyzing things, and I'm looking at the roster, and I'm going, that's not a really good roster, and they're going to have to do some significant roster management to restock the shelves. And by the time they do that, Tyron Matthew will be gone. He said he wants to play 2 more years. He's only under contract for 1 more year with the Saints. Now, Tyron, in his 3 years in New Orleans, has been a pretty average player, I would say. He's certainly not the all-pro that he once was. You're talking about a guy who was a first-team all-pro in 2019 and 2020 in Kansas City. He's not that anymore. But he's been durable. He's played in every game since he joined the Saints. All 17 games, all 3 years as a starter. He's been fairly productive. Had 64 tackles the first year, 50 the second year, had 47 this past year. He's gotten his hands on the football as he generally does. 3 picks, 4 picks, 3 picks. And what you know you're getting with Tyron Matthew, on top of the durability, is a phenomenal locker room guy. It's a guy who has been around winning cultures, who does the right things, goes about his work the right way. And it's interesting to say that about a guy who was kicked off the football team down the street back in 2012. But at this point, now that we're 13 years down the road, 12 years that he's played in the NFL, he is an awesome guy to have on your roster. So to me, as I look at this, I would not cut Tyron Matthew. It doesn't make financial sense. I don't think it makes football sense. And if you're just talking about building a culture that is going to be important for Kellen Moore to come in and establish, this is one of the guys you want to have that's around to help do that. So do I think that moving on from Tyron Matthew will open up a spot for a younger player? I doubt it. I don't. You look at that roster and see somebody that's just begging to break through? I don't. We'll see what they do in the draft. But if I draft somebody that plays that position, wouldn't I like them to learn from Tyron Matthew for a year? A guy that's been a first-team All-Pro 3 times? A guy that's made 3 Pro Bowls? A guy that's been with a championship organization? You think I want to just toss that guy out, or do I want him to help foster the relationship with those younger players that eventually will take over for him? That's an easy call for me. I want that guy on my team. You look at his contract, his base salary for 2025 as a 33-year-old is going to be $6.25 million. That's expensive. His cap hit is going to be $11.3 million. But that's coming no matter what. I'd rather carry him as part of the salary cap than have dead money of $13.8 if you let him go. No thanks. So there was nothing elaborated upon in this report. There was nothing that suggested it was imminent. It was just something that was tossed out there. And I suggest no. I'm all about the Saints getting younger and cheaper. I'm all about that. But that has a focus on 2026, 2027, 2028. Somewhere in that window is the next really good Saints team, we hope. That is not in 2025, and that's the only year that you've got this money tied up in Tyron. So, no, I'm not paying him the $11.3 million cap hit to be an all-pro safety like he once was. I'm paying him to be a durable player who's out there, who's still fairly productive, who's great in the locker room, and can help a new coach, a first-time head coach, command some respect. And I honestly can't point to 10 guys in the NFL who I'd rather have in the locker room from that perspective than Tyron Matthew in New Orleans. That's a guy who's got a ton of pride in his city, a ton of pride as a pro, understands his position in the league right now. He's already said he only wants to play 2 more years. He is the guy, the type of guy that you want to have as a part of ushering in this new era. So I am all about doing what it takes to keep him in New Orleans and happy. And I just don't see the positive to cutting Tyron Matthew. You don't get cap relief. You get worse on the field, and you get much worse in the locker room. That, to me, is 3 strikes against this idea. If you're just purely talking about his age and his ability as a football player, yes, he's lost a step. But he hasn't deteriorated so badly that you've got to move on. And your roster is not in a position to pick up and move on. I can sever all these ties, all this emotional ties and all this goodwill in the locker room and all that, if I feel like I'm making a change that's going to get me closer to the playoffs. I don't see that happening for this New Orleans team. They don't have the money to go out and get somebody who's a shoe-in to be a Pro Bowler. It's just not feasible. You might as well use the guy who's already taking up a significant amount of money at that position. So I'm out on that idea. I'm pro Tyron sticking around in New Orleans for 1 more year. Maybe that's it for his career. Maybe he's got another year left in the tank. I certainly wouldn't extend his contract and keep him around for 3 more years. But for just 1, which is already all he has under contract, yeah, I'm pro keeping Tyron around in New Orleans. Beck, you're an LSU guy. You're a Saints guy. I'd like to keep the Badger around.
Yeah, I don't think that cutting him and saving, I don't know if they save a few.
No, you don't save it.
Yeah.
You lose money.
Yeah,
his dead cap number is bigger than his cap hit number.
Yeah, so I don't see the purpose for it other than maybe that's a roster spot that you can just use for somebody younger. But But still, I think you keep him around as he's going to be a good locker room guy, and he can still play. He's not gonna play every snap for you on defense, but he can still go out there and make plays. We saw him do it last year. We've seen him do it in the few years he's been here of the Saints. So I think you keep him and at least for this next year.
I'm pro cutting Derek Carr and moving on and eating all that money, because that is a vital piece to moving forward as an organization. Your safety, that's not nearly important enough for me to make some sort of swift move. It's just a very, very different conversation, and I just feel like that it's just a different conversation. It's just a different thing to keep him around. So we'll see. Nobody else is reporting that this is an imminent situation, so it feels like that it may not have a lot of substance, but you are going to see some changes that are coming with the Saints. We'll see what happens with Derek Carr. We'll see what happens with Taysom Hill. Some of these older players that have a lot of money attached to their deals, that there are going to be opportunities there. But I would keep Tyron Matthew around. So that's it for our Saints talk here on this Monday. Our Monday shows are brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. GCOPnet.com is the website. All your printing, scanning, copying needs. I give you this metaphor oftentimes when we're talking about Gulf Coast Office Products, but you can do business with the big box store, and you're going to be a line item for them. You pick up the phone, you may get somebody in Atlanta, you may get somebody in Seattle, who knows. They got the resources for you, but are you going to have a relationship that's going to be able to make sure that your relationship is as good as it can be? No, I don't think you are. If you can do business with the mom and pop shop, and you can certainly get them on the phone, but do they have the capabilities of actually servicing your needs? Potentially not. Gulf Coast Office Products strikes a perfect balance there. They've got enough resources to make sure that you're taken care of from a printing, scanning, copying perspective, and you're going to get that local feel with your rep and the folks that work here in Louisiana for Gulf Coast Office Products. You make a phone call to Trey Beal, you're going to get Trey Beal. You make a phone call to the office, they'll call you by name. It's Gulf Coast Office Products. Do business with them for your printing, scanning, copying needs. Find them online at gcopnet.com. It is Gulf Coast Office Products. Take a time out, come back and close things out. It's a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Tear Parish Construction and Roofing.
This is Coach Kim Mulkey. Go to parishbuilt.com for all of your roofing needs.
From your hometown, parishbuilt.com.
When you can't rely on technology, you can rely on Mountain Cold Refreshment.
Dave's back on.
Coors Light. Choose chill.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Join us at the Louisiana Outdoor Expo at the Lamar Dixon Expo Center from March 14th through the 16th. Head over to the front or back booth and register for your chance to win a U10 New Canoe, a compact, versatile kayak perfect for fishing and hunting adventures. Visit 1045ESPN.com for details. And you can also join LSU Athletics and the Tiger Athletic Foundation for Bayou Tradition's second annual gala, a Louisiana Saturday night featuring Jordan Davis on the field and in Tiger Stadium Saturday, May 3rd. We're giving you on-field access. Register to win a spot at our table at 1045ESPN.com. Support LSU student athletes NIL opportunities and reserve your table at lsutaf.org/events.
So, as is pretty clear, we did not have a child over the weekend.
Nope.
That's why I didn't go to Frisco. Thought that might be a possibility. Did I make a mistake?
We talked about this on Friday, and I
we have hindsight now.
Yes, but I still wouldn't say you made a mistake, Hunt. I mean, it wasn't a mistake. It was a tactical decision on your part because the possibility of what could have happened was not worth the potential of what you were planning on doing.
I mean, LSU baseball, my favorite team in the world.
Yep.
Getting an opportunity to play 3 games, perfect weather. PGA Frisco, they're going to host the PGA Championship. They're going to host the Ryder Cup. Had an opportunity to play that with my dad and his buddy. There was a steak involved. My dad, they did go to that steakhouse, said it was great.
Yeah.
Probably a couple of scotches could have been involved there. There's very little I like more than LSU baseball, golf, steak, and scotch. And it was all there.
Maybe you did. Maybe you did
sit on the couch and not have a baby.
Maybe you made a mistake, Hunt. Maybe you did.
I'm feeling like it was a missed opportunity. I'm very disappointed in myself that I made that mature decision. Never make a mature decision. Be an idiot.
Don't, especially when people say, "Oh, we're adults. We have to make mature decisions." There are plenty of people that are adults that don't make mature decisions. It's okay to not make a mature decision.
Yeah, I just should have gone.
Yeah,
Frisco.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Look at that weather. It was like 70 degrees and sunny.
It was
LSU
nice.
won all 3 games. Instead, I'm sitting at home watching Aladdin.
Yeah.
Got Aladdin on the TV.
That's a good movie.
He wasn't into it.
Okay.
He's just all in on Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid.
Lion King and Aladdin just weren't really getting it done, but the Little Mermaid, he's way in.
Really?
He likes Scuttle, the goofy bird.
Oh yeah, he's funny.
He's a goofball.
Yeah.
All right, let's play Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
All right, first one here. LSU's Lazy River celebration. Take it or leave it?
I'm going to leave this.
Leave it alone.
I thought it was funny until Chris Mykowski on the call said that it was 3 feet deep. I don't need my baseball players diving into a 3-foot pool.
That's
not deep enough.
That's not deep.
And
you should not be
who was the
diving.
first one in? It was maybe Jake Brown, I think. I mean, that's the guy I need out there in right field, hitting the ball, running things down. I don't need him banged up because he dove into a shallow pool.
Yeah, this is one of those classic things where it's like, oh, come on, what are you talking about? They're just celebrating. But how many? We have seen plenty of examples of guys getting hurt in the celebrations.
Got hurt in a dog pile.
Yes, it happens all the time. Not all the time, but it happens enough to where you can be You can be like, all right, maybe we shouldn't do that, especially this early in the season.
Is the greatest celebration injury? Is it? The Martin Gramatica or Bill Gramatica, whichever one was it, that blew his ATL out in the celebration. Or one quarterback, I'll have to look and see who this was. One quarterback scored a touchdown and ran to the wall and headbutted the wall and jammed his neck.
There's been quite a few actually.
Celebration. We can't have that.
Injuries,
so yeah, I mean, it was good in principle, and then you realize it's 3 feet of water. I think that was risky for the Tigers.
It was. All right, next one here. The Dallas Mavericks just continue to alienate their fan base and just trying their best to have fans not be happy with them. Citing ongoing investments in the team and fan engagement, they say the Mavericks are upping season ticket prices by at least 8.5% for next season. Take it or leave it.
Man, I'm gonna leave it. You can't
leave it alone.
You can't trade away a top 5 player in the league and then immediately within 2 weeks raise ticket prices almost 10%.
Yeah.
There's a time and place to up the ticket prices. This is not it. If Texas football wants to up their ticket prices, this would be an okay time. Everybody's really fired up about that. The Mavericks, no, not right now. We need to probably hold off on that for a year.
Yeah, if there was one job that I would not want, it would be somebody who works for the Mavericks having to call season ticket holders to ask them about renewing next season. Yeah, I would not want to be doing that this year. That is, I don't know what you can say if somebody says, "Well, you traded our best player and you're raising prices." What are you actually giving?
A few years back, the Pelicans called a family member of mine who had business tickets. He had tickets through his business, and he was calling to cancel them. And they said, well, what if we bring you down to mid-court and give you club access and cut the percentage 30%? Will you keep him? He was like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how that conversation has to go. What if we put you almost on the floor and cut your prices? Would that be okay? Yes, that's okay. All
right, next one here. 50-mile-per-hour winds tomorrow. Take it or leave it.
Get out on the golf course.
Yeah, that'd be play some links golf.
I'm gonna leave 50-mile-per-hour winds.
Yeah.
No matter
Leave it alone.
what. That's not a great thing. So we'll see how the Mardi Gras situation goes in New Orleans. I know they've already canceled some parades. They're making some different adjustments to wrecks and some of the stuff. But yeah, I'm not in on 50-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, I'm not either. We're not even in hurricane season, and we're gonna have not hurricane force winds, but we're gonna have winds where I'm gonna have to go tie stuff down in the yard and make sure nothing's gonna fly away. We don't need this.
So if I
now.
got you a tee time at St. Andrews tomorrow, would you prefer it be perfect weather, 7 degrees, no wind, or you would prefer 25-mile-an-hour sustained winds if you were playing St. Andrews?
Well,
do you want to do it in the elements, or do you want it to be ideal scoring conditions?
No, I'm not going to be scoring anyways, so I might as well play it in the way that in the way that it's usually meant to be played, which is with some wind. So I would do that. Well, what about you?
Yeah, give me the wind.
Yeah, we need the wind.
Give me the wind. Because like I said, I played Pebble and played 7 and the wind wasn't blowing, and it was the easiest hole I've ever played.
Right. You need the elements there. All right, last one here. I saw this on Twitter. People were talking about Travis Hunter and Shohei Ohtani. Travis Hunter playing wide receiver and cornerback is more impressive than Shohei pitching and hitting. Take it or leave it.
Leave it. That's not nearly as impressive. I think there are probably a few guys in the NFL that if you gave them an offseason could figure out playing the other side of that. I think there are plenty of cornerbacks that could figure out wide receiver pretty quick. It's a similar skill set. Pitching and hitting is nothing similar.
Yeah.
And he's better than everybody at both. So it just blows my mind. That's not the same.
I would agree with you there. I mean, it really is and plus not to mention the fact that if you play receiver or corner, you already understand the other position because that's who you're defending every single play. So you understand the nuances of their position and how they might break out of routes and all that stuff. So you kind of already know how it works a little bit. So
it's a big, fast, strong. It's just big, fast, strong. That's what it takes, and that's the opposite of what's true in baseball with pitching and hitting. Just throwing 100 and hitting at 500 feet, not very
the same.
So. All right, that's it for a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. Had a big breakdown of LSU's weekend at Frisco Park on LouisianaSports.net today. It's my Around the Horn series. It'll be up every single Monday. Just looking back at the weekend as a whole. I did that verbally for the first 30 minutes of the show, so you can go back and check that out. LSU men's hoops loses at Mississippi State. Briefly touched on that at 1:30 and talked a little SEC baseball. I'm just not ready to completely give up on Texas A&M, even though they're playing very poorly. I think most of their fan base is ready to completely give up on them. But we saw in Baton Rouge last year what can happen with a team that is not playing well for a stretch of season. They can suddenly figure things out. So I talked about that at the end of the first hour. NFL Combine results are now in. We talked about that at 2 o'clock. Reed Darcy, good enough to jump aboard and talk women's basketball. How bad is Flage's injury, and what can we expect from her in the NCAA tournament? We talked to Reed about that at 2:15. And then should the Saints cut Tyron Matthew? I say no. You can go check that out at Hunt on Saints, wherever you find your podcast, or, of course, on YouTube. All that is on demand wherever you find your podcast. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can find us. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. Excited for tomorrow's show. It'll be a Mardi Gras edition. We are working, so if you've got the day off, you can still lock us in all day long here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We will preview LSU's trip up to Rupp, and we'll certainly talk baseball as well as the Tigers are back at midweek action tomorrow. We think we'll have Sharif Ishak from New Orleans. We'll see if we can make that work. But join us Tuesday for another Hunt Palmer Show. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. We're back same time, same place tomorrow for a Tuesday edition, a Mardi Gras edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio, video, security solutions, avssla.com is the website. On Instagram, you can find them as well, and there's always great examples of their fantastic work at avss_BR. I saw earlier this week there was a great little image of some of the outdoor areas that Audio Video Security Solutions has worked on. They can also handle your security system. Nothing's more important than the safety and security of your home and your family. And at the Palmer House, Mitchell Fisher and his team at Audio Video Security Solutions came out. They installed our cameras. They supplied all the equipment. We didn't have to lift a finger. They installed the app on our phone, so we can now remotely arm and disarm the burglar alarm. We've got video of our front and back doors 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Can rewind, can pause, can zoom in. Never pay any cloud storage fees. Call Mitchell Fisher at 225-439-7920. That's 225-439-7920. And start that process today. It's Audio Video Security Solutions online at avssla.com.